Welcome to Hillbilly Hooks. This is a discussion group dedicated to the tradition and craft of country music songwriting. I'm your host, Evan Sprague, along with my assistant, Richard James, and we have a special guest, Mr. Shawn Bracken, with us today. Welcome, gentlemen.
Hello. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, thanks, Evan. And thank you, Shawn, for being with us. I think
You
part
bet.
one went really good. Let's jump right into part two. Evan, as our host, and you're the mastermind behind this whole thing, why don't you tell me, either off the top of your head, or maybe you took a moment to jot down a quick little list today, who are some of your all-time favorite country music songwriters?
My favorite country songwriters have to be like Carrie Underwood, because she wrote some of her songs. Bob Dylan, who wrote Wagon Wheel, and people like them. I mean,
That's good company.
yeah.
How about you, Shawn?
Yeah, I was thinking about this the other day, trying to narrow it down because it's so hard, But I think some of my favorites and who I connect with: Waylon Jennings, Tom T. Hall. If you ever heard his record, Ballad of $40, it's a classic.
Yeah.
And John Prine, absolutely, just a phenomenal figure, a phenomenal writer, and
Yeah.
a truth teller.
Yeah, for sure. Right. That'd get you into trouble.
Yeah.
But he was a master. The late, great John Prine. I was thinking about the same thing. And, the first name that came to mind was Hank Sr., which, I mean, I could start reading a list of his songs to you, but if you're watching a discussion group like this, or you're involved in this topic or music in any way, no one has to tell you anything about Hank Williams. I was recently talking to a buddy of mine about a songwriting duo. Shawn, you've probably heard of him, and Evan, I'm sure you've heard a ton of their songs. Felice and Boudleaux Bryant.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
They wrote Rocky Top and Love Hurts and a bunch of other tunes. Tons of stuff. Tons of the Everly Brothers hits were written by them.
Yeah.
All I Have to Do Is Dream and Bye Bye Love. One of my favorites, Wake Up Little Susie. They were a husband and wife team where I think very often she would write the lyrics and sometimes he would write the music, although it wasn't always that way. Which is an interesting thing because coming up in our next segment, we'll talk about the theme song that we're working on for this discussion group. And Evan writes a ton of poetry. So we've taken some of his lyrics and I, put it to a few chords, and we'll get to that in our next segment because we talked about how some songwriters work alone and others work with, in groups of two or more in some cases.
That's right.
I was also wanted to give a honorable mention, a special mention to Harlan Howard, who wrote a ton of country greats. Tiger by the Tail and I Fall to Pieces. And I guess lastly, my top dog all-time favorite, you mentioned Waylon. Willie Nelson is my favorite songwriter in the country field. Just his stuff just really resonates with me.
One of the songs that's been resonating with me lately with Willie is Me and Paul.
Yeah.
What a gorgeous song. Just to a friend, but also to I don't know. There's just something if you've been in a band or been playing or or you write or whatever, that song is just I don't know, just gorgeous stuff.
Yeah, it's a great tune and based on some real life events that him and his drummer and good friend Paul English, they probably got into a lot of shenanigans over the years.
I'm sure.
There's no doubt.
Did you ever hear the story about Willie, Evan? I don't know if you know this, but I recently learned that it was in the country music documentary that Ken Burns did. Have you guys seen that? Evan, have you seen that?
No, but I
Okay.
did read up on him a little bit.
Yeah.
A lot of different things happened
Mhm.
when he went country. I mean,
Yeah.
stuff you never heard of. I mean,
Mhm.
that's just the way country was. Like,
Yeah.
you or I or Rick never knew this stuff, and it's like, what else don't I know?
There's a great story about Willie, how he was like, his early records weren't going anywhere, and he kind of, I think he was down in Nashville on Broadway or somewhere around there, and like, apparently the story is that he went out to the middle of the street, laid in front of a car, because he was trying to, I don't know, to reach the other side, or he had enough. But anyway, he didn't, right? But what ended up happening, he ended up going down to Austin, right?
Uh-huh.
And then just kind of blew up, right? People just were coming isn't that the way the story happened?
I believe that's right, because then, as now, the hippies and the country music fans were kind of going out and responding to the same thing. I think Waylon already met with some success down there and had told Willie, you got to get down there.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Man.
Evan, when you went to Nashville, did you make it into Tootsie's Orchid Lounge?
No, but I saw it. But I went into the Grand Ole Opry, and I did a backstage tour of that place.
Yeah.
Oh, awesome.
I actually stood on the same stage where Carrie Underwood got inducted.
Did you stand in that circle?
Yeah, right where
in the circle.
The same place where she got inducted.
It's a little bit of heaven right there.
And I'm like, I don't want to leave this place.
Yeah.
Right.
Like,
I wouldn't either.
I love her. I don't want to leave.
Yeah, part of the tour, they walk you across the stage. You get to stand right in the middle of that stage where bluegrass was born, where
where country artists got inducted.
Opry was broadcast all those years ago.
Yeah.
It's incredible. That's right around the corner from Tootsie's Orchid Lounge, and I mentioned that just because Willie used to live in the apartment over Tootsie's, and there's a lot of great legends about that.
You can go through that back alley there at Tootsie's and get right in. Walk
to the
right
stage
in.
door at the Ryman.
What a great idea that was! Whoever thought of that, and whoever did put the bars right behind, so you could just sneak away.
Yeah.
Go get a shot and then come back. And sing your song. Right.
And plus, I actually stood right outside Tootsie's.
My old man, who was from Tennessee and was a country songwriter too, he told me a story once, and it may or may not be true. It could be one of those apocryphal legends of the country music industry, but he said when Hank Williams was playing at the Ryman one night for the Grand Ole Opry, he was actually drinking at Tootsie's, and the stage manager was yelling out the back door of the Ryman, said, "Hank, you're on." And Hank said, "How am I doing?"
That's awesome. I'm going to steal that. I'm going to use that next time.
Yeah. Hank, you're
on.
on.
You're on. How am I doing?
That's a good one. So I'll add one more name. Since I made a reference to our next segment about the theme song we're working on, I'll make a reference to our past episode, part 1 we just did, because Shawn, you mentioned Dwight Yoakam, who I think his songwriting is he's brilliant.
Yep.
He's a traditionalist, and he's a real stickler for quality, has a really high standard for quality. And as you pointed out in our previous segment, he knows his stuff, man. He's like a country music historian. And he comes to the game, after educating himself in a way that very few people have, as far as knowing what's what with country music. He's brilliant in more ways than one.
He had some Ohio roots for a minute too, didn't he?
Yeah, I think he was either born in Ohio and then raised in Kentucky, or vice versa.
Yeah.
I think that's right. I think he was born in Ohio because he's got a lot of songs about going to visit his grandparents, like down in the hills of Kentucky.
Yeah, so he probably did have some Ohio roots.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Well, Evan, you want to wrap up part 2, and we'll ask our viewers to stick around and stay tuned for part 3.
Yeah.
All right, Shawn, thanks for being with us.
Thanks for having me, guys. I appreciate it.
Let's do this again. Thanks, Evan.
Uh-huh.